December 12th, 2022. This roundtable with Anupama Chopra comes out, and just look at this panel. Kamal Haasan, S.S. Rajamouli, Gautam Menon, Lokesh Kanagaraj and Swapna Dutt. But the most unforgettable line from this entire conversation came from Prithviraj, and this is what he said.
I want to do for the Malayalam industry what Rajamouli said did for the Telugu industry.
He has his own reasons, and not everyone in the Malayalam industry is Prithviraj. But I believe that ambition, that dream to go bigger, go wider, to achieve greater things, that hunger element is there in almost every actor, every filmmaker, every producer, every technician, almost everyone who's part of the Malayalam film industry. Which is why a film like Lokah Chapter 1 has even come out, which is easily one of my top 5 big screen experiences of 2025. Without getting into any spoilers at all, let's get into why the film works. Smaller pockets, bigger dreams. In an interview with Suchin, Karan Johar talks about one major difference between Hindi films and Malayalam films. He talks about how expensive Hindi films are to make, from actor salaries to production costs to every little thing that makes the balance sheet explode. And in the end, you don't even get to see all of that money on the big screen. But with Malayalam films, they are made on a budget that is like 1/5 of a Bollywood film. And this comes with quality visuals, music, and every other technical aspect that makes a film look world class. Like Prithviraj's ambition, the Malayalam film industry has always wanted to go to the next level, but they've always been limited. They have this constraint of a money that can go into making a film and the money that can be recovered from a film. But over the last 5 years, everything is changing. Let's just take the superhero genre. Malayalam filmmakers understood that we don't have to make a Superman or an Avengers destroying the entire city of New York. We don't have the budget for it, and honestly, it's all been done before. So they took the story of a young tailor from a small village in Kerala and gave him superpowers while he's wearing a mundi. And that's how we got Minal Murli. The setting, the characters, the conflicts, all of that is rooted, but the visuals, the VFX, the action sequences and the music, absolutely no compromise on any of that, and we all know how that film turned out. The reception that it got and the opportunities that it's giving to filmmaker Basil Joseph, who made that film. And you see the exact same thing in Lokah. The difference between big budget American superhero films and Lokah is this. In all those American films, the action, the conflicts, everything is taking place between the superhero characters, which is why every frame is populated with VFX, which obviously hikes up the costs. But in Lokah, the story takes place in modern day Bangalore. We see the story of Chandra through the eyes of Naslen's character Sunny. He's this typical mid-20s bachelor who lives in Bangalore, and he enjoys all the freedom that he never got from his hometown in Kerala. He lives in this big new city where he doesn't even know the language, and not many people know him except his friends and his very small circle in his apartments. So the setting might be familiar, but this is where the production design team comes in. They make a small space like this look like a cross between Anurag Kashyap's Devdi and an anime set in Tokyo. They take the tiny streets of a locality in Bangalore and add wet streets and neon lights which reflect off the wet streets. So even though the world you see might be small in the beginning, it looks completely fresh and the scale looks bigger than it actually is. When Chandra enters his world and strange things starts happening around him, the mystery starts unfolding without the crazy use of VFX. And in the scenes where they do have to show scale and ambition, they do something very interesting. Right in the opening scene, there's a character who runs across the frame and then jumps out of a window, and that sexily transitions into a really cool, really raw animated sequence which gives you this big backstory. This is a great visual choice, but this is also such a deliberate, incredible choice by the director to also save money without compromising on storytelling. Once again, one of my favorite filmmakers, Anurag Kashyap, keeps saying this in almost every interview of his. When you know that your budget is really small, it gives you the freedom to start experimenting a lot. And then you're just free to do anything and tell the story the way you want, which can't come in a big budget film, which is why you see Hindi films a certain way. And modern Malayalam cinema and films like Lokah are a great example of this school of thought, where you have small pockets but bigger dreams. The foundation of a cinematic universe. Every producer today wants to create a cinematic universe because they look at a Marvel or a DC and then they see themselves swimming in a pool of billions of dollars. But what they don't see is decades of groundwork and slowly building legacy. DC and Marvel started out with comics around the same time, sometime in the late 1930s, which is almost 100 years ago. And through these years, they've built characters through their comics and then TV shows and then movies and then created a cinematic universe out of all of these characters. But what's happening today in our industries is, if a film works, let's make a sequel, let's make a cinematic universe. Or who cares if it works or not, let's just announce a film as a 2-part or a 3-part film, make people believe that it's a cinematic universe, universe, bring them into the theaters, and then by the end credits, we just say everything is to be continued in part 2. Who cares if you're going to even make it or not? But other than these few examples, every other cinematic universe is falling completely flat because the audience is not that stupid. This is why Lokah is different. Once again, without getting into spoilers, you can literally see that there's a bigger world, a bigger vision of characters connected by a common theme. And this is just the first installment in the series that introduces Chandra. Who is she? Where does she come from? What's her history? What's the entire history of this universe? Lokah Chapter 1 serves as her origin story. And right from the story by Dominic Arun and the screenplay by him and Santi Balachandran and the trust that Dulquer Salmaan puts in this project as a producer, there's a clear intention to build a solid foundation for a cinematic universe, even before we know whether the film is going to be successful or not. But from the way the film is performing at the box office right now, I think we can be pretty sure that we are definitely going to see more of this universe. Kalyani Priyadarshan and Naslen. When the teaser of Lokah dropped and we got to see glimpses of Chandra's character and Kalyani who's playing that character, throughout the teaser she had this deadpan poker-faced expression, and a lot of people thought that maybe Kalyani may not have been the right choice to play a superhero character like this. But when you actually watch the film, everything makes sense. I'm not going to say no one else could have played this role, but the writing and Kalyani's performance, they go hand in hand, and it justifies why this character is this way. Why does she not smile? Why does she keep looking down? And this is again not a spoiler, but there's a simple party scene in the first half of the film where Kalyani is seen at the party and you have no idea what she's thinking, whether she's enjoying herself or not. But by the end, when she's leaving, she comes to Naslen and says, "Thanks for having me, I had fun." And there's a tiny hint of a smile on her lips. While watching the scene, even I was wondering why it doesn't seem like she even had fun. Why is she lying? Or is the acting inconsistent? But when the movie got over and you get to know what the story actually is, that shot has been playing in my head right now because it makes so much sense now. And after a long time, I'm seeing this for a female character, that there are claps and whistles and cheers every time she's angry or she's looking down, or even if there's a simple back shot of her and she's slowly turning around. It's sad, but at the same time, it's also rewarding because after almost 100 years of Indian cinema, we are finally seeing women step into the action zone. Of course, there have been few examples before, but when we're seeing the frames that we're seeing with Kalyani like this and it getting the reception that it truly deserves, this can only be done when a writer, director, producer, and the actor are working hand in hand. Another aspect of this film which really deserves applause is the idea of casting Naslen as this passive character. Through his eyes, we see this entire world. Especially since the success of Premalu, Naslen has been termed as the next big thing, the next big star, and he's signing back-to-back projects, back-to-back interesting projects. And at this stage of his career, to be honest, I don't think in any other industry, an actor at this stage of his career where he's getting so many opportunities would have said yes to a project, a role like this. He didn't have to do it, but he accepted the role of giving center stage to a female character because that's what the story demands. And the credit not only goes to him, but the entire team which mounted a project like this and made sure that the actors understood the assignment. Organic cameos. Until one point in time, cameos used to be so shocking, surprising, exciting, and just a lot of fun. But in the last few years, it's just become a cash grab, a gimmick to get audiences from different states into the theaters. But finally, again, without getting into spoilers, after a very, very long time, you get to see so many cameos done so effectively, so organically woven into the narrative, that the applause and the cheers, they don't seem manufactured. The theater genuinely went wild every time a known face appears on screen, even if it's a matter of 3 seconds. Because it's not done for the sake of it. You get the feeling that we might actually get full-blown films out of these characters, especially with one super mischievous character who comes in the second half. And the writers and VFX department got together and said, let's just have fun. And then there's his cameo by the end where you don't even have to show his full face. Just a shot of his eyes were enough to make the audience go absolutely screaming. But beyond all the star cameos which were great and served their purpose, the biggest surprise of the film is this appearance of this kid. I have no idea who this kid is, but this one kid literally takes the pre-interval block from 50 to 100. She literally had 1 ball and 6 runs to win the match, but she comes on the front foot and scores 12. But is the film without a single flaw? Absolutely not. One of the major flaws in this film is described in this reply to my tweet about the film. Tagara Dabba says, I get that it's a great try, but how come you guys give a free pass to Malayalam movies? There are too many loopholes, and for starters, this movie doesn't even have a plot. Don't say they are building up. They could have cut unwanted scenes scenes in first half and done their building there. I'm not sure about the loopholes and the lack of a plot because trust me, they got a whole plot and the entire world in place. But I do agree that there are a few scenes which are longer than they're supposed to be in the first half and especially in the second half. If a few scenes were crisper and the overall runtime was shorter by maybe 10 or 15 minutes, this film would have been an even bigger banger. But to be honest, I don't think I am giving a free pass just because it's a Malayalam film, because there are many Malayalam films in the recent past over the last few years which have not worked for me at all, which worked for a lot of other people. But beyond all the reasons I mentioned why the film works, there's also an extra personal reason just for me. I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago when I had written a story about a female superhero and it had all the potential to become this mass masala superhero film in the world of crime. I didn't even get to the scripting stage because people around me or even I felt that no one is going to make a film about female superheroes, especially in that kind of a market. And for many years it was true. But when I watch a film like Lokah, I feel like going back, taking that story, dusting all the dust and cobwebs off the surface and then starting fresh. And see, for me, I come from a place of privilege. I have multiple things that I do. I create content, I have a company, I have these different revenues of income if I want. But for a lot of people, filmmaking is a passion. It's not just a passion, it's the only thing that they want to do. It's a struggle for many storytellers, aspiring filmmakers to get into the industry, all of whom have great stories, but they have no one to believe in. And then when we don't see great films which have great ambition, we come back to this question of why are we not empowering enough writers? Why aren't we not telling enough new stories? That is not going to happen if you don't create the right environment, the right ecosystem for it. But now, at least from my personal point of view, I have this sudden confidence that maybe if there are producers like Dulquer Salmaan investing in a world of superheroes created by newcomers, and if the budget is right, if they build an ecosystem, maybe stories like mine can find a home and a place in that ecosystem. Maybe my character could become one of the many superhero characters in that universe. A universe which will already have an audience cheering and rooting for it. And this is why films like Lokah need to be cheered and applauded for. Not because they are just an entertaining film, which it is. But we live in a world where most filmmakers and producers think about one film and the opening weekend. That's it. Films like Lokah and the teams behind films like Lokah are different because they are the ones who possibly think about the future. But that's just me. Tell me what you thought of the film if you already watched it. If not, try to go watch it on the biggest screen possible. I think you're going to enjoy it. And let me know what your honest thoughts are in the comments. But for now, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Wow.